Hello, everyone, and welcome to day 7 of Jesse Tree. I'm your host, Isaiah. And on today's show, we'll be talking about Abraham's wife, Sarah. Let's get started. If you remember from yesterday, we talked about Abram and Sarai. God made a promise to Abram that he would have a family as numerous as the stars. The problem? Abram and Sarai had no children and were well past the age of having a child. But we are going to see today that even when something seems impossible, God always keeps his promises. Something to note about today's devotional is the name changes. Abram is now Abraham, and Sarai is now Sarah. God himself changed the names of Abram and Sarai in Genesis 17 as a way of confirming his everlasting covenant with them. Abraham is to be the father of many nations, and Sarah is to be the mother of nations. Today's scripture comes from Genesis chapter 21, verses 1 through 7. Now the Lord was gracious to Sarah, as he had said, and the Lord did for Sarah what he had promised. Sarah became pregnant and bore a son to Abraham in his old age, at the very time God had promised him. Abraham gave the name Isaac to the son Sarah bore him. When his son Isaac was 8 days old, Abraham circumcised him, as God commanded him. Abraham was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born to him. Sarah said, "God has brought me laughter, and everyone who hears about this will laugh with me." And she added, "Who would have said to Abraham that Sarah would nurse children? Yet I have borne him a son in his old age." Sarah was 90 years old when giving birth to Isaac. Abraham? Well, he was 100. Only God could do such a thing. I'm sure at some point before the age of 90, Sarah had moved past the hope of having a child to the acceptance of the childish reality that she found herself in. In Genesis 18, Sarah overhears a conversation between God and Abraham, where God tells Abraham of his return in a year when Sarah will have a son. Sarah laughs upon hearing this news. She was in disbelief that at her old age, she would now be given the pleasure of carrying a child. But as impossible as it seemed, Sarah would have a child, a son, his name, Isaac, which means laughter. Here are a few discussion questions you can talk through with your children today. For your preschool kids, ask, what new name did God give Abram? What new name did God give Sarai? What did Abraham and Sarah name their baby? What does Isaac mean? For your elementary age kids, ask, why do you think God sometimes waits a long time before fulfilling his promises? Have you ever experienced a time when God answered a prayer in an unexpected way? For your middle and high school students, ask, what are some impossible situations in your life right now where you need to trust God? How can our perspective change when we begin to trust God's timing? God's promise to Abraham and Sarah wasn't just about Isaac. It was about something even bigger. God told Abraham that through his family, all nations on earth would be blessed. That promise leads us to Jesus. Hundreds of years later, Jesus was born into Abraham's family line. He came to keep God's greatest promise, forgiveness of sin, and a right relationship with God. Just like it is impossible for Abraham and Sarah to have a child on their own, it's impossible for us to save ourselves. It is only through Jesus' death and resurrection that we can be saved, and anyone who believes will become part of God's family. Well, thank you for joining me for today's episode. Tomorrow we'll be in Genesis 22 talking specifically about Abraham and Sarah's son, Isaac. Until then, Take a few minutes today and let us know that you're on this Jesse Tree journey with us. Just go to fbmaryville.org/jessetree and hit the button that says we are participating. You can also give us feedback on the show by leaving us a rating and review on your favorite podcast platform. For our YouTube viewers, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And finally, if you have any questions or would like to share your experience with our team, please feel free to email us at family@fbmaryville.org. Well, parents, we're praying for you as you lead your family in today's Jesse Tree journey. Have a great time of worship, and I can't wait to see you tomorrow for day 8.